Have you ever walked into a store to buy just one thing and walked out with a bag full of items you never planned to buy? You told yourself, I chose this. But did you? Or did someone choose it long before you even walked through that door? Today, we're going to break something that you have believed your entire life. The belief that you are a free, rational shopper making independent decisions. Because the moment you understand how this system actually works, you will never look at a store shelf, a scrolling feed, or a limited-time offer the same way again. Let's start with something simple. Picture a supermarket aisle. Rows of cereal boxes, dozens of brands, hundreds of choices. You feel powerful standing there. You feel like the decision is entirely yours. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That aisle was not designed for your convenience. It was designed by teams of behavioral scientists, retail psychologists, and data analysts whose entire job is to predict and control where your hand goes next. The eye-level shelf isn't random. Companies pay a premium just to sit at the exact height your eyes naturally scan. The cheaper store-brand items get pushed to the bottom, where you have to bend down and make an effort to find them. The end-of-aisle displays that scream sale aren't there because the store is generous. They're there because impulse decisions happen fastest when you feel like you stumbled upon a deal, not when you were told to buy something. You didn't choose that cereal box. You were walked toward it. This is called choice architecture, and it is one of the most powerful, invisible forces shaping your life. And the terrifying part? It doesn't just live in supermarkets. It lives in your phone, your subscriptions, your relationships with brands, and even the version of yourself that you present to the world. Here's the first thing you need to understand. The human brain doesn't crave freedom. It craves relief from the burden of deciding. Every single day, your brain makes thousands of micro decisions, and each one drains a limited resource psychologists call cognitive energy. By the time you reach that cereal aisle, your brain isn't looking for the best option. It's looking for the easiest exit from having to think at all. Marketers know this better than you know yourself, so they don't give you freedom. They give you a default. And decades of research on something called default bias show one brutal fact. Most humans will accept whatever option is placed in front of them simply because changing it feels like effort. That's why apps auto-select the yearly subscription instead of the monthly one. That's why recommended for you tabs exist. That's why the pre-checked box on a checkout page magically enrolls you into a newsletter you never asked for. You think you're choosing. In reality, you are simply failing to say no fast enough. Now, let's go one level deeper, because this is where it gets genuinely unsettling. Have you ever noticed how a restaurant menu has one absurdly expensive dish sitting right at the top? Nobody actually orders it, but it's there not to be ordered. It's there to make everything else on the menu look reasonable by comparison. This is called the decoy effect. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Imagine two subscription plans. Plan A, digital access only for $8 a month. Plan B, digital and print access for $20 a month. Most people would pick Plan A, right? Too expensive otherwise. But now add a third silent option. Plan C, print-only access for $19 a month. Suddenly, Plan B, the exact same $20 package, looks like the smartest deal in the world. Nothing about Plan B changed. Only your perception of it changed. That one extra decoy option was never meant to be chosen. It existed purely to manipulate your comparison, to bend your judgment without you ever realizing you were being bent. You didn't decide Plan B was the best option. The menu decided it for you, and then let you believe it was your own idea. But choice architecture in stores is just the surface. The real manipulation happens somewhere far more intimate, inside the device sitting in your pocket right now. Every time you scroll, an algorithm is quietly building a psychological profile of you. It knows what makes you pause. It knows what makes your thumb stop moving. It knows the exact colors, words, and faces that trigger a tiny release of dopamine in your brain. This is called priming. Long before you consciously decide to buy something, your brain has already been exposed to it dozens of times.
A subtle ad here, an influencer casually using it there, a friend mentioning it in a story. By the time you finally decide to purchase it, you don't feel manipulated. You feel like you've done thorough research. You feel like this was your idea. But ask yourself honestly, did you discover that product? Or did you be slowly, invisibly walked toward it, one exposure at a time, until the desire felt like it was born inside you? The most dangerous kind of control is the kind that convinces you it was your own free will. Here's where the story turns from clever marketing into something much darker. Because companies don't just want to sell you a product anymore. They want to sell you an identity. Think about it. You don't just buy a phone. You buy into a tribe of people who see themselves as innovative and premium. You don't just buy sneakers. You buy into a version of yourself that feels athletic, rebellious, or effortlessly cool. You don't just buy a coffee cup with a specific logo on it. You buy a small, quiet signal to the world that says, I am this kind of person. Brands stopped selling features decades ago. They realized something far more profitable. Human beings will pay almost any price to protect their sense of identity. So instead of advertising what a product does, they advertise who you will become by owning it. This is why you feel a strange emotional pull towards certain brands, even when a cheaper, functionally identical option is right next to it on the shelf. You're not paying for the product. You're paying rent on a borrowed identity that a marketing team designed for you to fall in love with. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I have more choices than ever before in human history. Doesn't that mean I have more freedom than any generation before me? This is the ultimate paradox, and it's the second major twist in this entire story. Psychologist Barry Schwartz called this the paradox of choice. His research revealed something deeply counterintuitive. The more options we are given, the more anxious, paralyzed, and dissatisfied we become. When you're offered 3 flavors of jam, you make a quick, confident decision. When you're offered 30 flavors of jam, something strange happens. Your brain freezes. And even after you finally pick one, you're haunted by a nagging thought. What if one of the other 29 was better? This isn't freedom. This is a beautifully disguised trap. Companies flood you with endless options, not to empower you, but to keep you in a permanent state of comparison, doubt, and low-grade anxiety. Because a satisfied customer is the worst thing for a business built on infinite choice. You were told that more options equaled more freedom. In reality, more options often just means more ways to feel like you chose wrong. So what does this actually cost you? Because on the surface, this might sound like a harmless story about marketing tricks, but step back and look at the bigger picture. The average person today is buried under debt for things they don't need to impress people they don't even like, chasing an identity that was manufactured in a boardroom they'll never see. Your closet is full of clothes you barely wear. Your subscriptions are quietly draining your bank account every single month. Your sense of self-worth has quietly become tangled with what you own, rather than who you actually are. This is the true cost of the illusion. It's not just money. It's the slow, invisible erosion of your own authentic desires, replaced one small nudge at a time by desires that were engineered for someone else's profit. So how do you take your choice back? The answer isn't to stop buying things. That's unrealistic and honestly unnecessary. The answer is to reintroduce friction into a system that is desperately trying to remove all of it. Before your next purchase, pause and ask yourself one simple question. Did I want this 5 minutes ago, or did something just show it to me? This single question exposes almost every impulse purchase for what it really is. Try the 24-hour rule for anything that isn't a basic necessity. If you still want it a full day later, without an ad reminding you, that desire is probably real. If the urge quietly disappears, you just watched an illusion evaporate in real time. And finally, start asking a deeper question about your identity. Not what does this brand say about me, but who was I before I was told I needed this to be complete? Because true freedom isn't having 1,000 options in front of you. True freedom is being calm and clear enough to recognize which of those options you would still choose even if no one was watching. At the end of the day, you will still walk into stores, you will still scroll through your phone, you will still see the ads, the discounts, the perfectly placed shelves designed to guide your hand. That system is not going away, but now you'll see it. And the moment you can see the strings, you stop being the puppet. The most powerful thing you can do in a world built to make decisions for you is simply pause long enough to make one of your own. If this changed the way you'll look at your next purchase, hit subscribe, because on this channel, we pull back the curtain on the invisible systems quietly shaping your everyday life.